So the topic is how to use AccuMatch with a brand new prospect if you haven't done the map yet. All right, so you're presented with a sales situation, an opportunity, you're meeting someone, you want to be able to align your language with the prospect's receptors, right? So that they're receiving the information in the way they expect it. But because you don't have the map, what do you do? What questions could you ask that would help you to figure out one or two key points that are invaluable in the context of closing a sale and speaking their language so that they actually receive the information the way you want it. Right? And so the two areas that I would pick is options or procedure and sameness or difference. And the reason I pick those two areas is, first of all, they're easy to ask the questions, but secondly, most coaches tend to be high difference, high options, sometimes high global, etc. So we want to be careful of our own behavior patterns in a situation like that. So let's do a little bit of a role play, if you don't mind. So I'll ask Prem a question, I'll ask Vishnu a question, if that's okay. Listen for the answers and let's talk about the answer. Prem, how long have you been in the role in your family business?
The role that I'm in right now, I've been in that role for about 5 years as the manager and the person who is directing the business. But in other roles, I've been in the business for much longer.
How long?
So that would be about 21 years.
And so how did you end up in the last role?
We expanded and we included the manufacturing section. And the family had to take up different roles.
Vishnu, same questions. How long have you been in your role?
5 years.
And how did you get to be in that role?
I chose this role as a long-term decision for what I would like to do.
Cool. All right. So I'm going to put Sandra on the spot. What do you pick up? Because you're pretty good at picking these things up.
Well, with Prem, because Prem went first, he told a little bit of a story about his situation. So he spent time to go through what he was saying. So he's telling a story. So it's to some degree it was a timeline. So you could say it was a little bit of a procedure, right? So where he started or where he is now to what he did before and how he got to where he is now. And then also what he spoke about with the length of time, that says something as well. So his newest role has only been 5 years, but his previous role, or he could still be in both roles, but it's been for 21 years. So his length of time is quite long where he stays. And then for Vishnu, his answer was a lot shorter. So, not in the storytelling, but he did say what he's doing and that he chose to do the role he's in right now by choice.
So, if I take those points a little bit further, what I didn't ask Prem was, how he got into the action coach role that he's doing now, right? So I think maybe earlier in your career, you might have been high sameness, but you've switched to more of a higher difference, okay? So your clock is about a 5-year clock, which is what you've indicated. So you need to watch that part of it. Now, if I'm going to coach you and present a proposal to you, I need to keep in mind that you do like change, right? Difference, okay? But not too fast, right? So we need to make sure that when we're introducing things, and then the second part was the story that you told, which Sandra talked about, which is the sequence of things, tells me your procedure. So I would need to share with you the procedure of how the coaching is going to work in order to get you to the result that you're looking for. So So procedure and difference were the two things that I got immediately from that. And it felt natural, I hope. We weren't asking you any questions that sounded canned. These were conversational questions, right? And as Sandra pointed out with Vishnu, they were short to the point. You got your message across, but that's what an options person does. And then the second part was I chose to make that decision. That's also an options person, in fact, high options, right? So those things tell me, okay, if I'm working with Vishnu, I need to let Vishnu come up with the options that will guide him towards making the decisions that he needs to do to start coaching. So, interesting sales tools. I don't know, what do you guys think about that? How does it feel?
It's very good to be able to get the sense of how to respond in order to make the person feel comfortable. Because if you're going to start telling me about a long story and I can't figure out, what are the options at the end, then you might lose.
Yeah, you would get frustrated very quickly and, stop listening. This is boring me. This is not. Is that right? Yeah.
And I suppose if you don't allow Prem to tell his story, he might get offended and might not want to continue the conversation.
Yeah, why are you interrupting me kind of thinking, right? I need to tell you the story because I haven't told you the punchline yet. Right?
or you ask me a question, let me answer your question.
I usually, when I get silence, I usually count to 5 in my mind just to make sure that the person has actually finished, because if they leave 2 seconds and I think they're finished, then I start talking.
And careful when you start talking that if you're offering lots of options to a procedure person, right?
Right. I think that my difference is much higher than it shows up on the graph, because my wife usually has a running bet with me that I can't focus on anything for more than 6 months. That's about how long it takes me to master something and then get bored with it. And in our training earlier, if you see behind me, we actually were looking at what the 4 coaches would like to focus on. And Prem's question to me is, why do we add more stuff? And I'm saying, why don't we add more stuff?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think you are a high difference for sure. You identify a clock of 6 to 12 months probably. It's real, right? I think you had that on your first graph maybe or something. Your high difference.
They were pretty balanced. But over the years, I've also learned how to structure things and then just play my part. Instead of doing the 100% of what's necessary, just pick the part that I'm really good at and then delegate and empower other people to take up the 80%. It still seems like I'm doing it, but I may just be doing the 20% that requires me.
Yeah. So the 2 questions are really, how long have you been in your role, right? And second question is, how did you get into your role? Okay. So the how long tells you a little bit about their clock, and if they start to explain all the different changes that have occurred, right? Especially if someone's been in the same company, they may have still had lots of different roles. Okay.
Yeah.
And so they'll get into that whole I did this and I did that and I did this, and those sequences, even though they're sequences, there's still lots of change that happened in that time frame. Okay.
What about using self and other and internal and external?
Yep, you can use those. I just wanted to introduce a couple of things first. So internal, external, self and other, you listen for, when they're explaining things about where they want to go, why they want coaching, there'll be a lot of I words in self and other, or you words, in speaking almost as a third person. Well, you would normally do this in a business, we don't seem to be getting there. How would you, right? And so the use of the you emphasizes the external or other, right? Whereas I is more self-focused. So you can, in a sales situation, by paying attention to how often someone says I or you, and you can start to understand how important it is for them to get results, or how important it is for them to get results for other people on their team.
Or Yeah, if the word we would be for other as well, because it's involves other people as well.
Yeah, so presenting a proposal would be not so much what you will get, but how we will help your organization and your team, you know, versus, you know, what are you going to get out of this would be a different conversation, right? Where are you going? What do you want? What's the outcome for you? Why are you doing it? Really important little tidbits that are so critical in a sales. You know, we often hear the phrase, you know, match and mirror and so forth, but how do you do that at a neural level where you're talking to someone's unconscious mind, right? And that's really what we're talking about, is you're speaking to their unconscious mind by speaking to their receptors, what their brain is waiting to receive. You know, you got to talk to me the way I need to receive the information. Well, thanks, guys.